Hello and welcome to ETBFSI.com. My name is Amol Dethe, and we are going to discuss BFSI serving the new age customers in this particular session. At ETBFSI, we are curating content in different formats, and in this digital dialogue series, I have the top minds from the whole BFSI ecosystem, and we are going to focus on customer delight or customer experience, which is the actual theme for the BFSI companies these days. They just don't want to acquire the customer, but every BFSI company today wants to give a better customer delight or experience, and that's what they're betting in. So this serving the new age customers in the VUCA world, the biggest challenge actually for the BFSI companies they are facing today is, the difference between the millennials, the Gen Z, and the other generations, other existing customers which they have. And the challenge is how to serve them better, how to personalize the services to them. BFSI companies are trying too hard, trying their best to craft a perfect UI and UX with the help of digital, and just trying to master how they can actually cater to this segment in a hyper connected world. So ladies and gentlemen, I have top speakers here, and let me introduce them to you one by one. So for this session, my first speaker is Mr. Nandkishore Purohit, the CDO of IIFL Securities. Nandkishore, glad to have you.
Thank you. Amol.
My next speaker is Mr. Ajay Thomas, the CDO of Shriram Capital. Ajay, glad to have you.
Pleasure here as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajay. My next speaker is Mr. KNC Nair, the Group CIO of Muthoot Group. Mr. Nair, glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My next speaker is Mr. Vijay Kumar Ramakrishna, the Head of Information Technology, Clicks Capital. Mr. Vijay Kumar, glad to have you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ran, for inviting me.
Thank you. My next speaker is Mr. Saurabh Mittal, the CTO of Piramal Capital and Housing Finance. Saurabh, glad to have you.
Hi, thanks Amol for having me here.
Thank you. My next speaker is Mr. Amey Behera, the VP India Sales Bond Group. Amey, glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Amey. And my next speaker is Mr. Vishak Venugopalan, Director Solution Consulting India Adobe. Vishak, glad to have you.
Thank you, Amol. Glad to be here.
And we also have participation from ICICI Bank. Vinod Shivam, the Head of Technologies here. Vinod, glad to have you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great. So, gentlemen, I have a few common questions and few specific questions. So let me begin, by asking you a very common question to all of you. And I will start with you, Nandkishore. The question is, what kinds of thought process are required today to craft the best customer experience?
It's a very generic question, but the answer is very specific. The thought process which is required, irrespective of industry, to my understanding, to organize or to create the best customer experience is to think the way a consumer thinks when he's using your property. So the basic thought process is, if we can replicate the mind map of the customer in terms of what he or she wants to do, what is the problem which he or she wants to solve. We all are into businesses. So when a customer comes to our platforms, they are coming with a particular need in order to satisfy that need. They're not coming there just for the sake of it. If we are able to understand that particular need, why a customer comes to my platform at a particular period of time, and able to intuitively guide the customer to help him navigate, discover, transact, and manage his need. That's how we are able to create an experience which is end-to-end, and we are able to delight the customer. Experience, if you ask me, is not about colorful apps. It's not about being super fast. Experience is primarily about customer feeling that I am able to understand his need. I am able to understand for what he or she has come. Into our industry, when a customer comes to my app at 9:50, his need is totally different when he comes to my app at around 4:30.
Absolutely.
9:15, he doesn't want to waste even a friction of second because he has an opportunity to make money. 4:30, he has hell lot of time to do everything which he can on my app because there is no money making opportunity. Next money making opportunity will come at 9:15 next day.
Okay.
So the same app has to behave differently in these two different conditions for the same customer.
True. I think Valid points, Nandkishore. I'm sure people must be happy when they make money. So irrespective of better UI or UX, at least if they invest in the market. Great. So Ajay, I would like to take your views.
See, I come from a different segment altogether. When I talk about a different segment, I'm more into doing stuff on lending, stuff on insurance as well, right? Now, when I talk about a customer's thought process, what I speak about over here is understanding what our customers, who our customers really is. Now, one of our group company is dealing with trucks. The other group company is dealing with retail customers like you and me. The other group companies are also focusing on wealth creation and, insurance and life in general and so on, right? Now, what we try to solve over here is that give everything to each customer from their own perspective. And how do we get in a mode of communication in terms of, how could we personalize offers? How can we look at, do multiple stuff? In a way, each customer is engaged. We have a certain degree of ROI being converted, right? And how expressive from a design, right from a color perspective to your component perspective, how do you look at building an app, right? And like what Mr. Nandkishore said, understanding from a customer's mind map perspective, right? We've got here multiple types of customers, and we try to classify them into certain segments across certain demographics, across certain behavioral patterns, and then we try to bring out what could be a priority, and then we look at organizing it in a much better way so that customers are able to meet what their needs are and why they come on to each of our assets which we have. It could be a website, it could be a mobile app, or it could even be a branch where a customer would walk in. So it's more about getting that omni-channel approach right is what works really well for our perspective.
Right. Mr. Nair?
Yeah. See, when the customer comes to financial service organization, in the earlier days, we had enough time to interact with him and to know about his, explicit and implicit expectations of service from our organization. Then these days, we almost lost that. I mean, our business model has totally changed. It has become almost fully digital. So, but at the same time, this digital is also coming to our rescue too. Since in the earlier days, we didn't have the, a lot of information about the customer with us, which in the present day, we will be able to collect it directly or indirectly. Plus, the customer can be served in a much better way by reduced time, flexibility, and not only that, for the financial service organization, suppose they have multiple products, maybe some of these customers may not be requiring it, or they may not have thought about it, but we can actually prompt it in this sense, not very hard press sell, but indirectly we can identify what will be the most required product or service to this customer, identify it by getting his personalized data and using that as intelligence, and so it can be a win-win situation for both the customer as well as the organization.
Thank you, Mr. Nair. I think we'll take one more view from the lending side. I think we have Mr. Vijay Kumar here. Vijay Kumarji, do you want to add your opening comments?
So customers nowadays are extremely sophisticated and extremely demanding. They want the services at their pace, at their place. So we have to ensure that our applications cater to the requirement. End-to-end journey is fully digital. There is no breakthrough in the journey, because 75 to 80% we have watched that if the journey gets broken, the customer don't come back to complete the end-to-end loan cycle process. So we have to ensure that our application end-to-end from the stack, from the mobile app to the LOS loan origination system to LMS to collection, entire process is end-to-end digital till the loan gets dispersed, and there is no breakage in the journey. So that's very important. So the three main things which I feel in the digital customer journey is very important is discover where your customers are there, how they're doing the purchase. Second thing is engage with the customers so that they feel interested, they feel specialized need. They are given a special attention as a customer. Third is deliver. Whatever we promise, we deliver end to end. These are the three key things which we are important to ensure that the digital journey is unbreakable, and the customers, there's a attractive thing that the customer, there we get a repeat customer. So that's what three basic things which I feel is discover, engage, and deliver to ensure digital journey is smooth for the lending customer. And that's what we ensure by our in-house application and our off-the-shelf products.
Okay, noted your points, Vijay. I think the beauty of this whole session is we have people from different segments, not only just lending or the fintech. So now the next speaker, who's Amol, comes from absolutely a different background. Amol, you heard the different people here, the security, the lending perspective. What is your view?
Thanks. It's a great question, by the way. I come from a digital agency and named as Bond Group. So how we look at this is into two parts, right? So if you're talking about a best customer experience, right? So customer experience has always been defined by the way a brand has done business with its end customers, right? If you ask us, every customer today are looking for a connected experience across digital as well as physical world. And every brand is trying to catch up on the fact that how they can track the end-to-end customer journey. Right. If you ask us, after working with them for 300 plus blanks across the world, whether every brand has been able to catch up on this, answer is definitely not. A survey from a digital banking report says that only 8% of the companies today claim that they're able to track the end-to-end customer journey, right? Only 12% claim that they're able to track across mobile, web, and branch, right? And the rest mentioned that they are still planning or having no plans to track the end-to-end customer journey. Hence, the thought process is very simple. For any brand to provide the best customer experience, it is important to track and measure this. After you are able to track and measure, how are you using this data to make change in your people, process, technology, and business, right? Everybody talks about people, process, and technology. We have added one more angle, which is the business part of it, right? Sometimes or most of the times, it's also the business which has to change depending on what customers need, right? So I would stop here, but more importantly, what we have seen is if you have to really have a thought process within the world evolving, in the thought process in your own organization revolving around to give a best customer experience, it has to be a connected experience. It has to be connected across the physical and digital world. There are 15 different channels, and after 5 years, it might continue to become a 20 or 30 different channels, but today it's 15 different channels. And starting from, somebody said, discovery to engage to having a customer, we would say that across all these channels, from discovery to engage to having a customer to servicing it, everything is a experience for the customer, right? And there are different mechanisms to do it. But when I think any organization to really bet on the thought process, I think it's important to have the fundamentals right.
True. I think valid points, Amay. I think I will come back in the next session. The next round of questions, and would like you to add more on the tracking point where you said that 8%, are the only companies, and what is missing there. I think we'll learn more from on that perspective. But let me bring here Saurabh. Saurabh, you come from again a different background. We already had a lending perspective, but you are doing a different flavor of lending here. So what is your experience in terms of the thought process?
Yeah. So for me also, it's the first step is about having a very detailed understanding of the customer and what their needs are. So getting really in the minds of the customer, interviewing them, shadowing them as they go about doing their day-to-day activities, to understand what they say are their needs and what they don't say. They're understanding their unstated needs are equally important. And once we've understood those, then, literally having a culture of customer obsession in the organization. So teams that develop products for the customers, sitting in head offices, the customer is not there when you are doing the design. When you're doing a UX, the customer is not there with you. And then you've got those choices. If there is a journey that a customer has to complete, should it be 5 clicks or should it be 4 clicks? And then the amount of time you spend debating on that one extra click, that's what makes the difference in between like great UX and ordinary UX. So for example, in our company, we spend a lot of time, like a really crazy amount of time, just debating about every single step, every single field that gets added, which is extra action that the customer needs to do. And I kind of translate that into what I would call measurable UX. So building upon the point that one of the earlier speakers was making about measurability, it's super important, I think. So when we, for example, think about a customer wanting and coming to do a particular transaction, how many steps does the customer need to go through to complete that transaction? And then there are other important things which impact the experience. If it's a web page that's loading, what's the time to first byte? How soon can the customer see something loading? What's the time for the full page to load? What's the time for what we call above the fold, the part of the mobile screen of the desktop view that's measurable first? What are those times? And I found that, building upon what one of the earlier speakers was saying, most companies do not measure these, right? And I think having these measures in place helps us become better aware of the actual experience that the customer is having. And that can be used to improve your designs then. I also want to add that UX is just like the front end. It's just the I would call it a facade. When you think about apps that you love, whether it's Amazon or any of the consumer tech apps, there's a bunch of backend systems that are powering that front end. When you make a click, how quickly you get a response from the backend is not just about your network speed, but it's actually about how the backend systems have been designed. And I think this is a point that gets missed quite a lot, that there are backend systems that need to be designed following fundamentals of distributed computing, having algorithmic thinking in place to be able to work super fast, to be able to give those recommendations to the customers which they are not even asking for. Like think of LinkedIn. We never ask LinkedIn to tell us suggestions about who could be our friends, but LinkedIn does that. There's a ton of backend systems that power those experiences, right? So building those backend systems which power the right front-end user experiences is like super critical in my view.
Okay. Noted your points, sort of meaningful one. Let me get a bank also here. Vinod, your views?
Our view is that gone are the days where the customer experience is going to be reactive or ambiguous or unfocused. Now we are in the era of, kind of very predictive, insights coming in from the data. So we believe in how data can be used to, create insights on that, and then how experience can be predicted based on that. So we, our investments towards the experiences on platforms, on modern platforms where, a new CRM strategy, and then a data platform strategy, and then MarTech strategy, combining all these three things with an underlying data of the bank. That's where we are focusing on this area. So I mean earlier we used to do things in a very reactive, ambiguous, unfocused, and limited way with the earlier systems. But in the modern times, technology is helping us with the cloud and the other investments. So these are the areas where we are currently focusing on.
Okay. Noted your points. Predicting the experience, valid point, Vinod. Let me come with the Vishak with the last question to the in the first round. Vishak, regarding the question is obviously regarding the thought process and like your perspective.
Yeah. So it was heartening. First of all, heartening to hear the other fellow panelists, the business leaders, the technology leaders, everybody almost agreeing on, hey, you know what, we need to radically deepen the understanding of our customer, right? So that was very heartening to hear, right? And we need to anticipate their needs and respect their preferences as well, right? Coming from a technology platform company who partner with BFSI organizations in their endeavor to deliver the best customer experience. The funny thing about customer experience is that the last best experience you have given to a customer, that becomes the least minimum expectation for the customer in the future, right? So unlike anything else, that's something that we need to keep in our mind, right? So one other thing which comes into my mind about the thought process that organizations need to keep with them when it comes to delivering amazing customer experiences, the organizational partnership itself. right? How is my CMO, CIO, CDO, CEO, everybody partnering to deliver that unified experience? Why? Because customer sees only your brand, your engagement. They don't see internal departments. They don't care about, hey, the data license. No, right? So it's really important that the thought process should be about how effectively we can internally partner within the organization to drive the CX agenda, right? And how we can have a one size fits one, right? Not a one size fits all thought process in everything that we do in collective fashion, right? And how real time are we? Because Nandkishore mentioned this, right? 9:15, 4:30, different needs. So how real time are we? Because our customers are real time. How real time are we? That's another important consideration in delivering that delightful CX every single time, in my opinion.
Okay, that was quick but meaningful one, Vishak. Obviously, I have a couple of common questions as well, but let me get into some specific questions. And gentlemen, since we have a diverse panel, I would also like you to add something by any chance. For example, now I'm going to shoot an important question to Nandkishore, and if Vinod, you feel something immediately related to it, please feel free to add. Let me ask this question to Nandkishore. This question is specifically about the changes and challenges which is happening in the UI and UX space. So my question is, how do you measure the success of CX strategy? How do you ensure that whatever you are offering is following the best standards when it comes to the customer experience?
Somebody told me a few years back dear, the proof of the pudding is in eating. So whatever you create, okay, it has to lead to numbers, business, both in terms of customer growth and the profitability for the organization. Anything which is not leading to increase in customer growth or profitability, maybe in the long run, the businesses in which we are, we may not see the profitability in a very short term, but there has to be definite matrices which indicates that this growth in customer, be it in terms of adoption of customer of a feature which we have brought in, okay, increased time spent by the customer on our digital platforms. So if it was 3.5 minutes earlier, we made some changes, and if it is leading to 4.5 minutes, it's an indication which will lead to profitability over a period of time. So in our case, it is very simple. Whatever changes we do, we have defined KRA and matrices for that. We don't do any change just for sake of it.
Okay.
All our changes, developments are either basis competition benchmarking, data which we have, and explicit customer needs. And when we create the roadmaps for that, with every change, we have defined the output measurability metrics, which can be short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And we track the performance of each and everything, even if I'm changing a button. Okay, I'll tell you a very specific example. Like I gave an example of 9:15 and 3:30. So in my platform, the maximum activity happens between 9:15 to 3:30. That's when the equity markets are open. But we realized that out of the total transactions which are rejected on my platform, 6.5% of the transactions get rejected between 4:30 in the evening to 8 in the morning.
Okay. Because
there are people who don't get time during the markets. So they do their analysis post-market whenever they have time, and they try to place their transactions while they have time. Okay. For in our markets, it is considered as after market order. And all the traditional platforms had an option to select to place an aftermarket order, which everybody knows is from 3:30 to 9:10 in the morning. It's a very simple area. So I'm losing on 6.5% of the transactions on a daily basis, because out of the people whose orders get rejected, not even 10% come back, which means go back, choose that option and place the order. Okay. So for me, when I change this aftermarket, which is automatic, okay, and everybody knows that after 3:30, if an order is placed, it should automatically be placed as an aftermarket order. My order success rate moved by 10.5%.
Okay.
So I didn't even was able to save 6.5%. Another 3.5% customers, I was able to entice them to place an order.
Okay.
So in our case, it is very simple. Whenever we put in a requirement or whenever we take in a small list of the project, okay, there are matrices associated with it and we track it.
Okay, noted, Nandkishore, the metrics key role that play for you. Vijayji, my question is very important for you now, because that's at one side, and we have been talking about it, that the BFSI companies are going far more aggressive in terms of building a smooth and a seamless CX. But on the other side, the major question always is that what is the turnaround time to resolve the issues, the complaints when the customer raised them? So do you want to put your comments here in terms of when there are issues like complaints or something, what is the turnaround time? And how do you learn the customer behavior on your app and portal at the same time?
So in the customer turnaround time, it varies from the market. In the BFSI industry, in the banks, I worked with 3 big banks, and then now with NBFC, it varies from 1 to 7 days. Currently at Clicks Capital, on an average, we resolve most of the issues, 90% of the issues within 3 days. And we have got a marketing communication adapter, which we have put in our all digital channels, which we give the inputs to a product team and a business team, how the customer is behaving in different product channels. So we have 5 different products: business loans, second co-lending, third personal loan, fourth home loan, and fifth healthcare equipment financing. So we have put this marketing communication adapter where the customer behavior, that customer came, completed the journey, or customer came and dropped down at a 4th stage or the 3rd stage, which stage he dropped out and why he dropped out, so that analysis can be done by the product team along with the business, so that next time the journey gets completed, the improvement, the customer onboards gets improved. So that has helped us improve our journey by 20% in last almost 1 year, where this marketing communication adapter, which we have put in different channels, has helped us out. So we have done an analysis in the trends, what we have seen in the NBFC market, because our competition is with the big banks, where the rate of interest, because their cost of fund is very low, whereas our cost of fund is more. So we have to be more digitally better than the banks to enhance that customer comes back and takes loan from us. So 5 things which we have noticed as in the 5 different products from the digital journey is that 5 key things trends which came out is that since the customers are getting younger, the first is customers want it now. Means I want it now. I can't wait even for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. That thing first is there. Second is seamless omni-channel experience, whether he logs in from desktop, laptop, or mobile or tablet. We have to provide an omni-channel experience. So even if you switch over, the omni-channel experience continues. Third is that the phone call or anything is called as an interruption to the person's life. So people love WhatsApp messages or SMS. The messaging and mobile first gives customer delight, enhances the customer delight without interrupting in the customer's life or potential customer's life. The 4th thing is that we have to enable the sales agent. So what we have done is that every month our town hall, we go to the field and to respective 11 different offices across 11 different cities, where we understand what are the challenges of the sales agent on the field. So that is the main thing which we have taken. The 4th thing in Clicks is that we enable the sales agent, give even if 1 or 2 additional features to the sales agent helps increase the sales, or give to the collection field agents helps improve the collections and reduce the NPAs. The 5th most important thing is that now the ball game is changing from X league to Y league. This that now we have to move from automation to customers prediction. What our customers needs and what our customer wants. So there's a switch over from an automation to the prediction piece. So these are the 5 things which we have learned, which we have applied, because of which our business is growing in different product lines. So these are the 5 things which we focus from the lending domain perspective in the NBFC world to compete with the big universal bank or small finance banks where their cost of fund is low compared to us. So these are the 5 plus points which helps us compete with the big bank, universal banks and small finance banks.
Sounds good, Vijay. I think your 5-point strategy looks nice to us while listening to it. Ajay, my question to you is also on the customer expectations, similar to what I asked Vijay. So the customer expectations have evolved. So how do you deal with it? Is my straightforward question. And more importantly, how personalization is critical for you now as a company, because everyone is heading in that direction. How are you, preparing yourself maybe in that direction?
Right. So it's a very interesting question. Why? Because personalization is a very huge word, right? I mean, in the industry, what we talk about, when we're talking about personalization, we're not talking about, customers at a group level, or not even at a cluster level. We're talking about individual experiences altogether. Now, before I go into personalization, what I would want to touch base upon is what are you trying to achieve out of personalization? From a business standpoint, there are three important things which I feel are most important from personalization perspectives. The first being our time to cash, because I come from lending. I look at giving customers a loan within X amount of time. That's the first piece to it. Second, would it lead to my net promoter score improving, right? Where do I stand today? Are my customers happy? Are they delighted? Can it bring an improvement in terms of how do we look at increasing our engagement? The third piece to it is, can I look at increasing my products distributed per customer? That's what personalization is about, right? How can I create product suites where customer could take things in a bundle altogether? Or can I also use ways to find out newer ways to distribute my current set of products and also identify a suite of newer products which can be created basis what a customer's need is, right? And then I'm talking about personalization. I'm talking about even content personalization, right? The moment I log into the app, what is being personalized for me? Can it be just language? Can it be, it could be vernacular preference. Do I need to ask it explicitly, what language would you prefer? Or do I have an understanding basis the underlying data which I carry with me that what language does he really prefer? Can I predict it myself and show the entire app or the website in a language what he prefers to see it on? Then I'm talking about, product features. Apart from creating products, I'm talking about features which could be really useful for that particular customer and what kind of offers do we really need to be drawing for a customer. It could be a pre-approved offer on a loan to a discounted pricing on a certain product. How can I custom make each of it for every single customer is what the entire game changer is about. Now, instances, what we also see is that for people who take a loan, they would love to take certain insurance products or certain value-added services along with it. So what could be the next product which a customer would want to consume? And do I have it in my kitty? If not, what should I do to get into my kitty? So that what exactly this segment of customer or a particular group of customers would need, I should be having that kind of features available. So that's the entire personalization goal. And this ends in a higher take-up rate in terms of consumers walking through the flow and how easy and simplified can the journey be. Not every customer's journey is going to be the same. We look at tweaking it based on data available with us. How fewer parameters do I ask a customer to fill in? How can I shorten the entire journey flow basis data I have? So that to me is personalization, and that's what Shriram as a group we are committed to for our customers to drive through.
Right. Okay. Noted your points, Ajay. Amir, let me bring you here. Okay. Like other players, those who are acquiring the customers, taking them on board, and then offering them a customer experience, and their target is to offer them a best of the customer experience. Here, you are into the business of offering the customer experience to the companies who are offering the experience to the third parties. What are your observations? How do you see the customers expecting the experience, the better experience in terms of the BFSI companies? And also, if you could tell us, sometime back you mentioned about this 8-point tracking and everything. What is lacking? I mean, why no, it's only 8%, and how the BFSI companies can go ahead and maybe track far better experience of the customers?
Great question again. So, so I think when I said 8% of the customers today, or the 8% of the brands today are tracking end-to-end journey, and rest are thinking about it, right? What it really means is that there are two types of brands today, right? One is which is already set of unicorns, the fintech companies who potentially are operating completely on a digital world, right? The second set of the financial services organization or banks are the brands which has both physical presence as well as digital presence, right? Now, for a fintech company which has a digital presence only, it has become somewhat easier for them to go give an track an end-to-end customer journey. But when it comes to a bank, which is like 140 years bank or 30 years bank or 40 years bank, right? It has become difficult because they are catering to the diversified set of customers, which has a combination of 60 plus years age of experience, which has a combination of a teenage, which has a combination of middle age from 25 to 40 years, right? So it's a diversified customers, right? Now, what customers want today is a connected experience. Now, connected experience is nothing but you are combining your physical experience with your digital experience, right? From our perspective, customer experience is a combination of 3 distinct layers, right? The first layer is your brand experience, right? In which the brand experience is nothing but what brand is looking to give as an experience to an end customer, right? It could be UX UI, it could be understanding your user journeys, it could be understanding your user personas and stuff like that, right? The second layer is your behavioral experience, right? Which defines how a customer and the brand behave with each other when they're interacting with each other. And the last is the layer of book of records, right?
Correct.
Which defines your system records. And it is extremely important to integrate your brand experience, your behavioral experience, and your book of records. Now, somebody like Saurabh Mittal said that, look, it's fantastic to have front-end system. It's fantastic to have UX UI systems, but I need to have my back-end systems as well, right? At the same time, Vinod Sivan said that I am currently focusing on a CRM. I'm focusing on data systems, right? Which is the fundamentals of experiences, right? Which is what Vaishak said, saying that if I am building that book of records, which is nothing but data systems, and if I'm having a brand experience, right, how do I inject that intelligence into those book of records, right? How do I give that recommendation? How do you give a personalized experience? Now, these 3 layers are the answer to it. Brand experience, which is your first front-end experience, right? The front-end part of it, the UX UI, understanding your users, understanding the journeys, understanding everybody who is touching you as a brand. The second is behavioral experience, which is the 15 different channels, right? Which could be a web, it could be a mobile, it could be a call center, it could be a branch, it could be anything, it could be a broadcast, right? It could be a radios, right? And the last but not the least is your book of records, which is a system records, which is what I think Vaishak, Saurav and Vinod spoke about. It's extremely important to integrate your brand experience with your behavioral experience with your book of records, so that the experience could be seamless, right? Now, if I am a customer and if I'm going to lend, borrow some money from ICICI Bank, right? I am a customer credit card, I'm a customer savings bank account holder. I would love for the bank to know me, right? When I enter the branch, I would love the bank to know me when I'm chatting on the chatbot on ICICI Bank, right? So similar experience is required by everybody. Customer is homogeneous. It's a different set of segments, and everybody looks at a different experience, and the definition of experience of each customer at different segments is very different. Yeah.
Okay. So nice one, Amay. Let me bring here Vinod. I think Vinod, you use this term called, Amay also spoke about ICICI, and you use this term called predicting experience, which kind of stuck to me. Very nice term. So does that mean that if I go to an ICICI bank, I have an account with ICICI? So does that mean that if I go to a branch tomorrow, they will know that, okay, I love Mini Cooper, and perhaps they will give me some offer related to Mini Cooper? I do not have that. Is it like that? That is point number 1. And I also want to
exactly. That is what we aim at, right? That is the end state. That's what we aim at. Correct. So we want to understand the customer in depth with whatever data we have. Say example, now people try to understand typically banks try to understand customer movement via their FASTags. Because FASTag data is also traded with all these banks, right? So they also know, right, what kind of cars they have. The car is on loan or not, right? So we get a lot of data. The place from where you get data points, right? Those are important. And how do you link them and then draw a line from there is the next important point. So all these things put together, right? Creates a customer experience priority for you. Based upon that, we have to create a journey, and then and figure out the experience from there, right? So what is the customer's preferred channel, and how customer comes into the channel, and what is the entry point, what is the exit point of the customer, and how the metrics, and how do we see the customer experience metrics there, and what are the individual behavioral segments the customer steps in, right? I mean, it's not only one set of data. It's a large set of data, and then it's over real time and it's over time. So with all these things, we try to create insights with these systems, what we have, what we are trying to put in or what we already have, right? Once those things are connected, we see how the customer is able to use our omni-channel experience across the segments and across the digital assets what we have created. So based upon that, so we have to figure out, I mean, where do we fit in, and what is our kind of retention based on the experience and the metrics, whatever we have created, right? Based upon that, right? I mean, we already measure a few things on NPS, and then we have CSAT, you name it. I mean, we have tried everything, right? I mean, and then now the new things what people are asking to measure is the churn rate, the customer churn rate, right? I mean, where the customer starts the journey, where the customer ends the journey, from the, and then how do you customer effort scores? Effort score is also one point what we're currently measuring, and then customer efficiency over the digital, right? And then average resolution time. So based upon all these things, we create a score called I-score internally, and then we have our own scores. So it's all, I mean, how it was all consolidated and how it is done. Again, going back to the systems of what we are trying to deploy, right? Or what we are deployed. One is mainly the CRM, again the new data platform, and then the MarTech systems, typically the CDP experience, customer experience platform and customer data platforms, and then digital asset on top of it, building with digital asset, and then an omni-channel experience layer on top of it. This is how we are trying to do in our environment.
Okay. Very well said, Vinod. Saurabh, let me come back to you. And my specific question to you, Saurabh, is in your segment, it's not again a very, a quick segment where, the loans are disbursed quickly because, you may go through a huge diligence because you're working in a housing segment, unlike a personal loan or something like that, right? So are customers aggressively using digital apps and portals for this segment also? I mean, the real estate or the housing segment also? What kind of experience do you want to give them, and what kind of experience they are expecting from companies like you?
Yeah. So in terms of like digital usage of the people who are buying homes, we know from the consumer tech world, the prop tech world, that yes, people do go and search online. People do go and find prices online. People do go and look for the best possible interest rates that they can get online. And what we are seeing also realistically is that we get leads, through the website, right? So there are people who inquire from us, about the interest rates and our terms and conditions and how we can go about funding them. So customer interest is definitely there. Now when we look at, is the ecosystem that we have, is it ready for giving completely digital experiences in the mortgage loans world? So in the unsecured world, it's easier. There's no security. The number of actors, it's just the customer and the lender. But in the mortgage loans, in the home loans world, there is a seller, there's a buyer, there could be a builder, there's a registrar. There's so many actors, and then there's so many things that need to be done, to source the documents, verification of the documents, finding reliable sources to verify property titles, marking lien, registration itself. We don't have an ecosystem yet which allows for doing all of these things digitally, but there is progress. There are states, for example, now that have digital records of the property titles. So what we believe in is that the mortgage loan experience, which today could be a largely offline experience, will switch to largely online. It will take time, and the ecosystem needs to evolve for that. And what we're doing is we are actively working with a multitude of actors in the industry to define what those rails will be like, where the mortgage journey can also be completely digital. It's a hard problem, but in the interest of our, just going back to our overall CX strategy, identify customer needs and solve for them. As simple as that. It is clearly a customer need to have a completely digital mortgage journey, right? And therefore we will, we are working towards solving it. It can take time, but we're working there. Until then, what we're realizing is for the segment of customers that we are working with, there is the pre-acquisition phase and there is the post-acquisition phase. And for our segment, in the pre-acquisition phase, customers are mostly needing assistance through a selling partner. And therefore, in that case, we kind of think of our customer as not just the end customer, but the selling partner also as a customer. And therefore, we invest in building digital journeys and best-in-class UX and tech for the selling partner. And that again helps in having faster conversions and faster decisioning and all that. So this across all the actors, not just the selling actor, but also the credit underwriters, the people who are doing property valuation, legal evaluation, and so on, right? So that's how we think about it. And then post acquisition, we are finding that customers are pretty much comfortable, coming to the website, downloading our app, using the app for viewing statements, using the app for making payments, and so on. And that gives us belief that even for the segment that we are in, digital journeys will solve a key customer need.
Okay. Noted your point, Saurabh. Mr. Nair, you heard Saurabh, despite being a traditional sector like a real estate, we are seeing some pickup there. So when you see real estate or, typical mortgage business, and more importantly, the gold business, which is kind of a flavor for Muthoot Group, how do you see the traditional mindset changing towards customer experience? Are the traditional customers are also looking for a, hyper-personalized, or if not hyper-personalized, a seamless or a better customer experience there? Because a lot of, the people from a different background, different mindsets are part of this group.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was what we also thought. I mean, we thought, see, our flagship business is gold loan. As you know, the customer necessarily has to come to the branch and deposit the gold and take the loan. The process is very fast, maybe 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes kind of thing. Moreover, many of these customers were not having even a bank account. Of course, last 2-3 years, there was a tremendous effort in the financial inclusion that was actually tremendously improved. So plus this pandemic, of course, definitely pushed these type of customers also in to use these online services, digital services, etc. That has actually tremendously helped us. So what we have done is we have actually totally redefined our business. The only two processes we could not actually make fully digital was the customer has to come to the branch, deposit the gold, and the customer has to again, after the use is over, once he repay it, he has to take it back. So in this situation, how can we actually securely and conveniently digitalize that? And a year back, actually, we could succeed it. We made a product like as loan at home. Instead of the customer coming to our branch, the branch people or the agents will go to the customer's place and do all these processes. I mean, whatever is required, the KYC, the assessment of the gold, and all those, video KYC and everything. Of course, everything is actually driven by this digital technology, including, multiple eKYC and mobile validation, whatnot, everything. And plus, we have, all the information and data is actually highly secured using our technology. Not only that, actually, we have actually secured his asset also. So what we have done is actually, there is initially when we done it on a pilot in Bangalore, we felt that, some of these customers have the apprehension. Are these really the branch people or the Muthoot people who are coming to my home? They are having the tag and all those, but really, we have seen a lot of type of fraud. So they had the reservation. So what we have done is we have taken care of that also. And in case they have any concern or reservation, we have actually secured it by putting an RFID also into that box. That box will be sealed in front of the customer, and the RFID will be there. That will be tracked. Not only that asset, the person also will be tracked, and we monitor all the time, etc. And as soon as the process is completed, within seconds, the customer will get the amount credited in his bank account. So we have totally redefined that. Plus, the customers earlier, they most of them, I mean, our profile of customers, a lot of rural, 70% of our customers are from the rural area. So we educated them, I mean, how to do fund transfer, how to repay loan through multiple, we have payment gateways, and we have created very simple, very fast interfaces through our mobile app and web. In addition to that, we have sent the links also and educated them, how fast and how easily they can actually remit the payments and interest payment or part payment or full payment, etc. So that is how we have actually converted them. Now almost 40% of these customers, the total transactions are actually happening through these digital channels, and this loan at home is actually redefining the traditional way of doing gold loan, and we find a lot of traction in that particular product also.
Sure. So basically, you have to educate them to offer that experience so that they can enjoy that far more, seamlessly. Noted your points, Mr. Nair. Vashak, my specific question to you is about the strategy on the UI and UX front. So according to you, I'm sure you must be talking to a lot of companies, considering the company that you come from. So what could be the best UI and UX strategy according to you, considering the customers that the BFSI companies or even otherwise, are from different segments. Today India is the youngest country and a lot of millennials are opening accounts, Gen Z opening account, and they already have customers from a different category, like 50, 60 age of. So what could be the best UI UX strategy according to you, Vasha?
Yeah, I mean, loaded question, Amol, and sorry if I get a little controversial here in answering this, right? First of all, because it's a closed door, right? We have that liberty, right? So first of all, there is no one size fits all. There is no one specific UI UX model or strategy which works for a business, a customer, nothing, right? In my opinion, the best UI UX strategy is something which continuously learn and optimize. It continuously learn from users, both internal as well as external users, right? That's what the best strategy is, right? So testing and optimization is of paramount importance in UI UX, which is what many actually miss, as well as with my experience of working with a lot here, right? Which is, if you are not actually continuously testing and optimizing various parameters, various users, various timings, then you don't have a UI UX strategy. You have UI UX, yes, but you don't have a UI UX strategy, right? That is why, because, why I said it can be a little bit controversial is, I've seen in many instances where this looks good. Oh, let's go ahead with this, right? That kind of decision being made by hippos. What is hippo? Hippo is highest paid person opinions, right? So we need to actually watch out for that particular hippos and say that let data talk, let testing talk, let multivariate testing, A/B testing, at massive scales. We need to do massive scales. As you mentioned, India is a vast country with very varied needs. So it's important that wherever you're making, and Ajay made this point, which is excellent, which is like, make sure that testing and measurement is ingrained into our UI, UX and experience layer. And for that, of course, you need modern platforms to actually make that kind of a shift that's actually in there, right? Because most of the time what happens now, what I've seen here is that we are still in the cycle of big bang UI refresh. Oh, 2 years. Okay, now let's do a new website. Now let's do a new UI for this particular app as such, right? We have moved away from IT release cycles long back from waterfall into Agile. Why have we moved an Agile UI UX strategy now? Why are we still waiting for this big bang UI refreshes and stuff like that? That gives us an opportunity, because the competition, the disruptors may outrun us here when it comes to this being agile, when it comes to creating experiences at the speed of thought, right, as such, right? So, and also we don't have to come with a lot of baggage when we are actually designing this experiential strategy, right? So, and last point, when it comes to, we talked about the need for testing and optimization and stuff like that. it is time for us to also respect and understand that it's humanly impossible to create the variations that the customers really need, right? Why? Because you mentioned India is a varied country, right? The permutation and combinations are so huge, it's humanly impossible to create that many creatives, that many copies, okay, I want a family picture background and a message saying that, hey, get your personal loan in 2 minutes, right? I want a bachelor background and say the same. It's humanly impossible to create that many, content because the variations are huge. So it's high time that we consider automating these content production and optimization into operations wherever possible, right? And that's what we always strive to actually help organizations to have platforms which automate a lot of stuff, ingrains measurement and testing into everything that they actually do. So no silver bullet, watch out for the hippos, and testing and optimization is of paramount importance.
Okay. I think very valid point, Vishak, and that not just applies to BFSI but everyone. I can tell you honestly, even at BFSI.com, the website I'm heading, I have big team here, and we keep innovating every week. Sometimes we launch some segments, and it doesn't work because Google gives the whole data of which stories are read by people, which stories are literally dumped by people, and then we don't work on those stories, right? I think fair point. So let me take one common question to all of you, considering we discussed in detail about the customer experience now, and all of you give enough examples in the case studies. The question is specifically about the long-term or the future strategies. So what's going to be your long-term or a future strategy for a customer experience, better customer experience, and what's the next best experience are you working on?
To give you a broader answer, right, there's no one select approach to it. What I believe is right today is going to change over the next 6 months as well, right? So we keep on reinventing ourselves in terms of, the current way we operate. And when we are talking about, doing a lot of tests, we believe in a lot of A/B testing in terms of, deciding what really works for a customer. And there could be multiple approaches which you would want to carry from a customer standpoint. And also carry a certain hypothesis saying that this really works, this may not work. Challenge ourselves in terms of, from an experience perspective, this really works. Does it really matter to a customer? And metricize those data, right? I mean, without having a standard approach towards what could really work. I mean, benchmarking could be a starting point as to, what competition or what are the best players doing. But that does not really mean that, that could translate to a success metric for our brand. Now, each brand is different. Each customer segment is different. How do we look at understanding each of it better? How do I look at, measuring what is my customer behavior? What does my heat map say? Where do I look at, our customers spending a lot of time across which product pages, which component in my mobile app, for example, or even from a product feature perspective. So that's how we look at measuring, and we continuously look at transforming and improving the ratios in terms of, how we look at working today.
Okay. Noted your points, Ajay. Obviously, let me repeat the question, and for all the panelists, the question is, I want, obviously, Ajay mentioned about the practices and everything, but I want everyone to add more on the future perspective. So the question is, what's your long-term or a future strategy for the better customer experience, and what's the next best experience are you working on? Vijay Kumar.
Yeah, so I think I would like to start that I will not name the person, but one of the CIO of the topmost universal bank was my friend in IDRBT. We used to meet in a quarterly CIO meet. So he said after 20 years also their ITL maturity rating is 3 out of 5. And the reason being that if you see, now I'm giving an inside out perspective, we heard outside in perspective as a CTO or CIO, where you had the technology, security, and digital everything. The basic should be right, because which I've seen in IT is that in the earlier stages, first comes to run the business, then the second layer comes to secure the business, third layer comes change the business, fourth layer comes grow the business, and the fifth layer comes new to business. So if what we are discussing is that our third or fourth layers are smooth, then we can play in the new to business area, right? So in that we have got 5 formulas, 5 key agenda for 2022 and 23, where we have given that first is customer first, to simplify, personalize, and empower the customer journey to retain the customer and attract a new customer. Second is open API and ecosystem first, where we say open, collaborative, and competitive APIs where we retain the customers. And APIs like open banking APIs or open NBFC APIs are tons and tons of integration we have done in LOS to completely digitize the end-to-end loan management process, loan origination process. Third is insight first, means as much as insight we provide to the sales agent and collection agents of the customer, it helps them to acquire customers, retain customers, and do the collection from the customer. The fourth is automation first, to automate the processes, all the touch points, the moments of truth with the customers. We need to completely automate that process. That is the fourth thing. The fifth thing is back-end cloud first, that it should be like, I worked in a bank 10 years back. We used to every 3 to 6 months, we used to go and order tons and tons of infra, hardware and server. It used to reduce the time to market, because in any universal banks, if you see, there are 500 to 600 very small, medium, large, very large projects going on. And infra used to be the bottleneck. So now cloud is the need of the hour for non-banking, where the critical applications can be put on the cloud. Now, in the future, we are focusing on top 6 things to digitize the customer journey. The first is the channel flexibility. Whichever channels the customer comes, we are there from the lending domain perspective as clicks. We are flexible and we could do it. Second is the reachability of the customer, that they are reachable for our sales agents to reach them through digital channel. Third is service convenience. Whatever services in the 5 domain products we do, business loan, co-lending, personal loan, home loan, healthcare equipment financing, the service convenience is there for the customers to avail the services after pre-loan services, post-loan services, during collection till the loan management journey ends. The fourth thing is purchase convenience for the customer. There has to be a convenience for the purchase, either digitally, fully end-to-end, that there should not be any need for physically meeting. At least 90% of the journey is digital. Fifth and the second last one is simplicity and ease of use of our applications. Either we are doing co-lending for our applications, or we are doing D2C journey. The simplicity and ease of use for the application is to be there. Easier said than done. We have to do enhancement in and out. Continuous evolution of the application is required to reduce the touch points. Second is personalization of the journey. The last thing is personalization of customer journey is very important, where we make the customer feel special, respected, and customer delighted service. So these are the 6 things which we need to do: channel flexibility, reachability, service and convenience, purchase convenience, simplicity and ease of use, and last but not the least, the personalization of the customer journey in the entire digital cycle is extremely important, where the human touch points, he or she should not feel that human touch point is missed out. So this is the future which we are looking for, keeping the base, which I told about 5 different businesses. What are the top 5 things from inside out as a CTO or CIO, and top 6 things which digital journey or the product guy or a chief digital officer has to look into. So this is the overall strategy which at Clicks we follow to ensure that it's an end-to-end digital journey, and and the proof of the pudding is that customers grow and our book size increases and our NPA reduces. So that's what, from the Clicks Capital perspective, I feel that we are doing.
Clear roadmap that is visible, Mr. Vijay Kumar. Saurabh?
Yeah, so for me, the strategy that is going to be most likely long-term is going to be very simple. Continue to identify customer needs and actively solve for them. That's all. It's as simple as that. The needs may change from time to time, from customer segment to segment, but that approach, the strategy of identifying the needs and solving for those needs, no matter how hard it is, that I think will be my overarching strategy statement. And when we drill down into that, right, like after you've identified the customer need and after you've done the best possible UX, which helps the customer complete the transaction or journey in the minimal number of steps, then the point about making the right tech choices becomes super critical, right? So front-end technology, for example, has evolved very fast. People move from native apps to React Native to now Flutter is coming up. So we would always be at the cutting edge of technology. We would always be exploring and inventing with the latest. We would power the front end with very, very robust backend. Like, this is a very critical point, in my mind. Algorithmic thinking beyond microservices, right? Thinking about the fundamentals of distributed computing, building fault-tolerant systems that are scalable, secure, work all the time. If I can achieve a state where I never have to send out a downtime notification to my customers, a maintenance downtime, never ever, right? That's what I would call a robust backend design. So achieving that to have the right user experience, and then measure everything, literally everything. We talked about UX steps. the time for pages to load, latencies that the customers see, response times that the APIs take, error rates, and all of that. The point is, if you have an API that's working like 99% of the time, you may not get customer complaints for the remaining 1%, and therefore those errors can remain forever, right? Because nobody's really reporting them. But and there will be some frustration in the customer's mind because some of them will see errors. But if you can measure, right, and strive for continuous improvement, that from 99, I got to go to 99.01, 02, and eventually to 99.99, you will keep improving the customer experience. So measuring the API error rates, the response times, the latencies, is very critical for me. And then the fourth point is infrastructure is important, right? It is like crazily important. When we think about user experiences, there's applications that we build, there are systems that we build, there are systems that we buy. And then we put them on hardware, which crashes when there is high load, right? Today, we are in a world where cloud allows us to build applications which are cloud native and therefore auto scale, right? This is something as simple as this, right? When there is high load, the systems will auto scale. There will be many more nodes, and therefore the user experience is never impacted, versus those applications that require some manual intervention that, something is going wrong, something is getting overloaded. So going away from all of those infrastructure assets where intervention is required to continue to deliver the right user experience, move away from that and think more about cloud native and auto scaling. Those would be some overarching aspects of my CX strategy.
Sure. Mr. Nair?
Yeah, our next 1 year priority we have set on moving from the multi-channel to the omni-channel experience using the power of machine learning and AI, the artificial intelligence, with maximizing the use of the existing data at the back end. I mean, at the CRM or the business intelligence systems or wherever, so that the customer will be able to get all the benefit of that and in the back end, but transparently. So at the same time, it will relieve us from, we will try to automate it as much as possible so that the customer will have the better satisfaction and better experience instead of agent calling the customer and pestering. Intuitively the customer will find, okay, for my profile, this particular product may be useful at this time, prompted by the system rather than a cold call or whatever is coming from the organization directly. And in all these, with a simple interface and as good as talking to a branch manager, that is what we are aiming at. We have succeeded. As such, we are giving this interface multi-language in terms of voice also. 6 languages we are providing now. We may increase it also, so that to cover all kind of customers, not only the IT savvy, the new gen, but the old gen customers also. Maybe 50% of our customers are 40 plus, so we have to cater to them also. And thankfully, technology is coming to help us in this very effectively, cost effectively, and very conveniently for both the customer as well as the organization.
Right. So digital technology will help gold to glitter. No dearth of business for you, Mr. Nair, going ahead.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. So Amay, I will tweak the question for you. Obviously we are asking about the long-term strategy for the customer experience to the BFSI companies. What do you think should be the long-term strategy for the customer experience, and what is the best experience that you see companies will provide going ahead? Because now we are talking only about data analytics algorithms, but now at the globally, people have already started adopting metaverse, and they're talking about the virtual reality and everything. So how do you see that experience? How do you envisage the experience in BFSI going ahead?
I think everything will revolve around what customer wants, right? So specifically, if you talk about a millennial, what he wants is something bank has to provide at his doorsteps, right? And if you really ask me what would be the future strategy, I would say that it will revolve around 4 fundamental customer needs, right? The first would be always the smart servicing part of it, right? Everybody spoke about data. Everybody spoke about AI, using personalization, using the data, using recommendations, right? I would say smart servicing is the solution towards it, right? Use your data to provide a more proactive and personalized service. Integrate that with your channels that every millennial will already or always use it, right? A good example in this is all the fintech and the insurtech companies who have mastered that art of using data science, right, to know their customer, offer more personalized products and recommends based on a science, right, which is the technology part of it. Right? A typical example in this space is I will not name the company, but it's a fintech company which launched its platform in 2018, right, to help customers make credit card payments in an age where there was always a company called as bill pay desk, right, and the likes of it, right? But today it is one of the most popular credit card payment destination for millennials, right?
Yeah.
And I believe everybody could guess which that fintech company is, which is valued at $1 billion, right? But it's offering a customer much more beyond a credit card payment today, right? Starting from selling electronics products on its platform to every little thing which a premium customers would ideally buy, right? Moving on, the next fundamental customer need on which the future strategy of customer experience will revolve around is taking control, right? Empowering customers by being transparent and giving them the tools, the mechanism for taking their control, doing more of self-service on their platforms, right? A lot of fintech and insurtech companies are successfully doing it. And we have also seen large banks like, I think top 7 private banks in the country do this very successfully, right? Which, I think one of the banks, gives a credit card approval in 10 minutes. And I think last week I applied for a slice card, which gave me approval within 2 minutes, right? That's what is taking control. I put my application on the system. I had a control of this application. I got it approved in 2 minutes. That's my control, I believe, right?
Right.
The third fundamental customer need, I believe, is the digitizing the human touch, right? Finding ways of allowing for human interaction in the digital sphere, right? For example, it could be a video, live chat or an video calling, right? But reassuring that the customer, that the human is always there to, be there, to support you, right? A lot of banks and insurance companies are in the process of doing it, and some of them have done it. I think the largest banks today have done it already, right? Which is called video chatting, but it's an assisted sales through a human being, right? The last but not the least, which is the fourth fundamental customer need, is the seamless interaction. I think providing clear, intuitive user interaction patterns that makes task very easy to achieve. Obviously, insisting a sense of confidence within the customer is very important. And this is an area where we see a lot of banking customers have a lot to catch up, right? I would say that 4 out of top 10 banks today in the country are coming to us, have come to me requesting help of how do they integrate the front-end experience with the back book of record experience, right? We're working with the top NBFCs in the country. We're working with some top banks in the country. We have seen a tremendous amount of demand in last 2 years just because of COVID. But what we see is this is a best time to transform your customer experience. And, I think it's the best time to capture more and more customers in this area.
Okay. Noted your points, Amir. Vinod?
So our investments and our strategies are, again, in whatever you guys have covered already, most of them. I've seen Saurabh doing most of that. I mean, we are also doing the similar thing. Most of our, and even KNC, Nair has also said, So it's all moving towards the same direction of AI, right? I mean, AI and ML with the data. That's one thing. Second is going ahead with the technology-driven segmentation, understanding the customers, and then figuring out how the customer journey analytics works, and then how to use customer behavior data and drive revenue. Like how top tech companies are doing, and then how to understand customers in a very different way based upon the segmentation, and then how cross sells can happen in a single omni-channel platform. So this is how where we are looking at, and we are investing in that angle. And our investments are again towards the same stack. What you have mentioned is in a new CRM platform, a new data platform, a new MarTech platform, which includes an CDP and a CEP, and then an omni-channel on top of that.
Right. Noted, Vinod. Vashak, what kind of experience do you envisage, the BFSI company that is going to offer according to you?
Yeah. So as it was great to hear everybody, thinking, what's in store, right? So Saurabh talked about the technology experience that needs to be there, so that you don't have to look at the blinking lights, but expect that to actually work 99.99 times. Kenzie and I talked about the employee experience, which is the other side of the customer experience, and Amaya talking about the business experience and the book of records. We're now talking about new trends, and of course Vijay talking about the 6 layers and stuff like that, right? So we are in the business of creating cutting-edge technology solutions so that brands can actually take the advantage of it, right, in delivering that customer experience. And having worked with banks, insurances, NBFCs, and powering their digital experiences for years in this country, in my opinion, what's next? Of course, there are tons of technology trends happening, right? Customer journey analytics, customer data platform, privacy, first initiatives and whatnot. But again, everything goes back. The future is actually, the answer to that particular future lies in the fundamentals, right? And the fundamentals is basically just 3 things, right? Which is, the first one is know and respect your customer, right? Which is as simple as that. If somebody is turning off your notification, they're telling you something. Please respect that, right? If somebody is not opening your messages, that is an indication for you to act and better that particular customer experience. So know and respect your customer. That can only happen when you fuse your analytical and operational system together. You don't have to be one system which does the analysis, another system which does the operations. That is why messages like please ignore if you have already done so comes into place, right? So fuse. In the future, you have to fuse this analytical and operational systems together, number 1. Second, make your engagement, whenever the minimal opportunity you get to engage with the customer, make it impactful, right? Make it impactful by individualizing, not just personalizing, individualizing to the customer needs, right? And the third is, the organizations will win, have won in the past, will continue to actually soar high when they have the culture of continuously learning and optimizing, right? Not to actually put the gauntlet down. The job is never done. Customers will evolve, experiences will evolve, competition will evolve, industries will evolve, technology will come and go, but continuous optimization and learning and an agile culture is something which is going to stay, is what my prediction would be, Amol.
Okay. Noted your points, Vishak. Can you kind of summarize? I don't need to summarize the points you picked up, cherry-picked the points that all the speakers said. A meaningful conversation for me as well, a great learnings here. And I must say customer experience is a very, very important thing, because at one side, when you are adopting and embracing high-end technologies, how we serve the customer, and more importantly, even before giving him an experience, how we solve his problem, as early as possible, is a key theme. And a very valid point, Vishak, you said that, the customer is saying something if he is not responding to your push notifications. And I think that's going to be a key going forward, how the BFSI companies actually, react to it. So thank you so much, dear speakers, for sharing remarkable insights and taking out time to join this session. So thank you, Vishak. Thank you, Mr. Vijay Kumar. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Mr. Nair. Thank you, Vinod. Thank you, Ajay. And thank you, Amaya. And thank you, Nandkumar, as well, for sharing the remarkable insights on this BFSI platform. Thank you so much.